crutch. I'd like to thank a bunch of people, starting with the club staff for hosting and feeding me lunch for the last 5.5 years and just being a great place to eat and do stuff like this. Colonel Heineken, RSM, and Her Majesty the Queen for allowing the RSM to be here today.
Oh.
And my entire support team today, my photographer, John DeHaan, my presentators, and everybody. So thank you very much for making today special for me. My first platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Taylor, deserves my thanks, and I told him many years ago, if I ever lasted this long, that I'd mention him in my retirement. In his most sage advice to me, which was, "Sir, never sing cadence again." And I took that advice. I have never sung cadence, and I have never done karaoke, and there's a reason for that, and hopefully you'll never find out what it is, but you can probably imagine. My first battalion commander deserves my thanks. He did two things for me. One, he taught me a neat trick on how to open a bottle of champagne with a sword, and we'll get to that later. And when I was 22 years old, we were having a gathering of the officers for a development class. And he asked us all, where do you want to be in 20 years? 22-year-old, I'm thinking, where's my next beer coming from? But it was an interesting question. And after thinking about it for a few minutes, I realized, okay, in 20 years, I'd like to be a lieutenant colonel. And I later added, and a mechanized battalion XO. I got the lieutenant colonel part, and I was a mechanized brigade XO, which is the next higher level. So I came pretty close. Actually, one might say I exceeded my goals with my career. I was pretty happy with that. As I looked through all my pictures to put this thing together, I realized a few things. One, never grow a mustache again. I can't believe I wasn't taken out and shot. And man, I had a great time. I looked through some of those pictures. I hadn't seen them in 10 or 15 years and said, wow, I just had far too much fun during my career in the Army, and I've continued to have fun here at SHAPE. The Army gave me many opportunities. The first opportunity I got was to be called Private Alphabet when I was at basic training. When you get to be an officer, they don't call you that, but I spent 6 weeks known as Private Alphabet, which was kind of interesting. I'm sure if somebody yelled, "Hey, Alphabet," I'd probably drop and do push-ups just automatically. I got to jump in ice water above the Arctic Circle. Not once, but twice, which just proves how stupid I really am. I got to travel to an awful lot of countries, meet an awful lot of interesting people, eat some really interesting foods, which I won't discuss in mixed company, and drink some truly amazing beverages. I don't have any Hungarian. Oh, yes, I do. Unicum. If you haven't had that, you're not living. My time at SHAPE has been wonderful. I've been here 5.5 years. I wouldn't have stayed here this long if I didn't like it, and I'm staying here longer because I just love Belgium. I have to thank my colleagues in the housing office. Everything that Colonel Heineken said about how great we are, I owe to you guys. I just showed up to work, played solitaire on my computer, answered the phone once in a while. I didn't do anything. You guys did all the work. Colleagues down the hall in SHAPE domains, same thing. You did all the work. People just came to me crying, my wife says I have to have a house today. And if they were in the right spot on the list, I said, okay. And it was just paperwork. It was easy, but you guys made it happen. You made people happy all the time. HSG team, couldn't ask for a better bunch of guys to work with, and you all got you're talking to a couple weeks ago. Francine taught me a great deal of French. When I got here, I hadn't had French since high school, almost 20 years before, and I spent 3 years, 2 nights a week with Francine, and she did a wonderful job. Got me to the point where I had no fear responding to requests from the HSG staff to interview with the local radio and TV stations in French, and just chatting away, blah, 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 and I guess I didn't say anything too out of sorts. The articles were all pretty good. SHAPE's just been great. really enjoyed the Terry Fox runs, the PCC open houses, the various events they have here, the Sacyr Sports Cup, setting up and tearing down the Fest tent every spring and fall. And if you haven't done that, you really need to participate. It's a good time. Free pizza for lunch. The Army has provided me a never-ending stream of entertainment, which is a long story in itself. I've had fun. The people I've worked for, I think, have had fun. And I hope I leave the Army a little bit better place than I found it. And I'd like to thank once again all the people who helped make me a little bit better person than they found me. And my wife and son who have wandered off. So I'll thank her later. Okay, earlier I mentioned my 1st Battalion commander and opening champagne with a sword. He used to do this all the time at all the ceremonies, and his hope was that we'd take it out through the Army with us and continue the tradition. I did. I've been doing this for 20-something years, doing it myself, teaching other people how to do it. So, to celebrate my impending civilianhood and ring in the holiday season and get to the point where we can have champagne and eat cake.
That's why we show.
Great time. We're going to lop open the champagne with the sword. All right.
Can we sit in the back?
It's not great, she's Danish.
Projectile is going to fly.
Oh boy.
Yeah, well, that's okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please come get a glass of champagne and go ahead. Well,